All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Chelsea, and I live on the East Greenwich Warwick Town Line. And I take the 14 to get pretty much everywhere every day. Well, almost every day. And yet, if it were to be cut on weekends, it would make life a lot more difficult for me personally. And because I use it to get to work, and on Sundays, and then I also use it to get up to the train station in downtown, up the street from here so I can go hang out with friends in Boston, get other buses to where I'm trying to go. Like say I want to go to Newport or to the beaches on Saturdays, which they also want to cut the 66 into 69. I can't. It's not like I want to go to the beach on a warm Saturday during the summer. Trying to get to work, trying to get home from work. Well, the 14 already stops running before I get out of work, so I have to take the 16 on Sundays. So if that gets cut, I'll have to buy an Uber, which I've checked several days, and it's averaging like around $15-ish one way before any tips and whatnot. Would make things a lot more difficult. And I personally do not support any service reductions on the other routes that I regularly use. I take the 21 and the 22 for my medical appointments that I have to. I also take the Route 1 and the 78 buses, as well as the R lines on Saturdays to go to Rhode Island FC games. Let's go Rhode Island. And on top of that, what about the other people that are affected by this? What about the homeless people coming at Harrington Hall? And what about the seniors down in Westerly who rely on the 301 showing up once a week like clockwork on Fridays? If those routes are cut, there goes their, especially with the 301, there goes their lifeline to Stop and Shop in Richmond. And every time I've ridden the 14, the 16, even when I used to live in West Warwick up until a couple months ago when I would take the 13 pretty much every day, those buses are never empty. I have seen on a number of occasions, even on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, that the 13 would always be packed. Well, not always, but it would sometimes be packed, but there would always definitely be several other people on the bus. The 23, well, I don't take the 23 as much, but there would always be a couple of people on that bus. And to the legislators that may be around here, that may be among us, frequency is freedom.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Wu, and I'm a RIPTA rider from Providence. I am a frequent rider on the R line and Route 1, which are facing frequency reductions. But there are so many other RIPTA routes across Rhode Island that are going to be heavily impacted. I've attended several of these public hearings, and one common concern I've heard from riders is how devastating these cuts will be. URI students shared how losing access to routes 14, 64, and 69 would make it more difficult for them to get to school, work, or to run errands across South County. In the Blackstone Valley, such as in Pawtucket or Cumberland, routes 75, 76, and 80 are on the chopping block. In Warwick, weekend service on routes 4, 13, and 29 would be eliminated. So many RIPTA riders rely on public transit to access employment, education, healthcare, and other essential services. To be honest, these cuts wouldn't even be considered if Governor McKee hadn't shortchanged RIPTA in the first place. Our frustration should be directed at him. The governor threw riders under the bus, and now he's ignoring RIPTA as a gasp for air. There are only 3 days left before the RIPTA board meets to vote on these cuts. I urge everyone here to call your state reps, senators, and especially Governor McKee, and demand full funding for RIPTA. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Darian Phoebe Bashir. I live in Edgewood. On the day the board met to discuss the cuts, I joined via video from 800 miles away. I was visiting a place that, like this one, is a top 40 but not top 30 U.S. metro area. While I was there, I used a bus system which added service recently. Plans more, but I was looking at full 24-hour service. I used it free. It was an extreme heat action day that day. Meanwhile, I am here in this room begging to not lose weekend service, worried about the already too short weekday span of service where I live, and none of the people who need to be hearing it None of the ones who control the purse strings are in this room listening. While our neighbors in Massachusetts and Connecticut fully fund transit, we buy fancy signs by our airport and try vainly to woo new basketball teams, while our large employers leave because they want transit and we offer cheap downtown land instead. I would like to live in a place which does not position itself as a bedroom community for our larger neighbor. We are past due to fund and operate infrastructure which indicates we are serious about being a growing city. These service cuts, if allowed to go forward, will instead demonstrate that we are not. Leadership which does not act is leadership in name only.
I'm Greg Garrett. You know, they did the study, and it's RIPTA is running efficiently, which means that these cuts aren't because of what RIPTA's doing. You know, we don't blame RIPTA for this. We blame the legislature and the governor. My specialty is climate justice and how you do an economy based on climate justice. Cutting RIPTA is among the stupidest things you could do if you want to have climate action. We can't afford to do that and have a livable planet. You know, it's not only here, it's everywhere, but we're here. And we got to say, you cut this, you're cutting, you know, our chance to do climate right. You're also cutting your chance to do the economy right. Because the economy not only is climate, but it is also justice. And we know that who rides the bus? Lots of people ride the bus. All kinds of people ride the bus, but mostly people who don't have cars ride the bus. I don't drive. I live in a family that does have a car, so I can get someplace if I absolutely need to, but I prefer to walk. But the fact is, we can't make the economy of Rhode Island work if we keep cutting the buses. And, you know, we're $10 million short in a multi-billion-dollar budget. It's absolutely pathetic. You know, I mean, if the governor rode the bus, if the legislative leadership rode the bus, you know, I grew up in a place where everybody rode the subway. You know, even the millionaires rode the subway. You know, it's like, if we can't get them to figure out that we can't make this state work, then they're stupider and we're in more trouble than we thought.
My name is Jane Arnold. I live in Pawtucket. I'm 75 years old and I've lived in 8 states and 14 communities. And ever since in high school, I took the bus to a volunteer job 2 towns over. I've used public transportation when it's available, partly because I like it. I like not having to drive. I hate driving. I hate driving on bad roads. I hate trying to find a parking place. I hate driving right around, finding a parking place. I hate walking for a mile after I found the parking place. I hate paying for parking places. I like buses. I like watching the people on the buses. And I gotta say, I took a 35 bus here, and boy, did I admire that driver maneuvering that bus from Angel Street onto Thayer Street. Like I'm sitting there going, I wouldn't even do that in my Honda Fit. So I've always, when public transportation is available, I've taken it to work, I've taken it to school, I've taken it to graduate school, I've taken it for entertainment. My daughter grew up two blocks from a bus that went to Harvard Square every 10 minutes. That was the center of the universe, in case you didn't know. Which is why she didn't have a license until she was 20, and we moved to the wilderness where there was no public transportation, and she was humiliated by having her parents drive her everywhere. It's part of being human, taking public transportation. And now that climate change is so bad, I try to get places on my bike. I love riding my bike when it's 90 degrees and I can't breathe, and I'm 75. It's not safe for me to ride the bike. I want the bus. I think this is a slow strangulation of RIPTA. The more you cut the service, the fewer people are able to use it. And don't tell me, oh, we can't raise the rates because people won't take the bus. I think the young lady over there would probably be willing to pay $10 more a week than have to pay $30 a day for an Uber because she wants to go to work. And maybe if she could get to work and she could get, maybe get to work on time, she might get a raise and she might be able to afford the bus.
Great ideas.
I just want to say, all the places I've lived, this is the only place I chose to live. We didn't move here for somebody's job. But this is not going to be a world-class city with a crummy transportation system. And I think we all deserve to live in a world-class city.
I'll make my comments brief. First of all, I represent the National Federation of the Blind of Rhode Island. we are strongly opposed to these cuts. They are devastating, they are crippling, and they will destroy the freedom and independence of blind people, disabled people, and all peoples who take public transportation. Now that's their spiel, here's mine. I'm saying this as a person myself, not representing any organization. I think these cuts are a disgrace, they're abominable, they are destroying people's lives, and I do not blame RIPTA. Now guys, you never thought I'd say that, right? Right. I blame Governor McKee. I blame the General Assembly. Now Governor McKee wants to roll back the 2-cent gas tax. Where's that going to leave RIPTA? And also, I have a concern as a person who uses paratransit, if the costs balloon because of the pilot program and the RIPTA cuts, how is RIPTA going to afford to pay these costs when they can't afford these $10 million shortfall? Now, people, legislators, I implore you, if you're in the room or listening or wherever you are, do what's right for your people. You are representing us. We voted for you. Do what's right for us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is William Montoso. I've been riding the bus for 40 plus years. I'm not here to talk about the problems with this. It's not RIPTA's fault, it's the government's fault. And the changes that are happening happen. Every so many decades that we get buses cut, buses brought back in. What I actually want to talk to you about is the scheduling of the buses. Now, I fortunately live in a zone that has 6 buses that run by where I live, so I'm pretty much set. But I also speak for my son who lives in Bristol, and with the cuts coming to 60, it's gonna hurt. It hurts right now, even with the current schedule running when it comes to going at night, because the peak hour that's set up doesn't look into the system. It looks at either Newport or Providence end, and you gotta remember, 60 is a split bus. So once you hit the island, you either go west or east, so that pushes it back double the time. So when you switch to an hour program at night, you're actually switching to a 2-hour program. So you have to stand there. The other thing I like to say is that on the weekends, the 60 bus is so busy, it's running, it's standing room only. I was on Saturday 4 times. Every time the bus was packed. Even the 63 had quite a lot of people because there were events running, and there's nothing substituting RIPTA for these events. They didn't do private transit, they just relied on RIPTA. So every time there was a bus going through, it was full. And unfortunately also, the bike racks were full, so the buses were just going by people on the side of the road that needed to put a bike on the bus and they couldn't get on. So what needs to happen is not to cut the 60. Yes, I understand you have to cut buses, but 60 means more buses on the line instead of cutting it back. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hannah Golan, and I am a resident of East Providence that took the 33 to get here today. Governor McKee, you may recognize my name from the many messages I've left for your phone. Your staff is lovely. Kayla, shouts out to you. Not only am I here as a concerned member of our community, but also as a small business owner. My husband and I are founders and owners of Potho's Plant Shop in Fox Point, Providence. We opened our doors in June last year and have had the honor of getting to know and love the residents of our neighborhood that depend on our bus stop at Ives Before Power along the 92 route, one of the most affected. Our bus stop is consistently busy and has brought so much visibility to our very small business. We take stewardship of our stop, and provide a place to sit while waiting, salt and shovel in the winter, and keep the area clean and well lit for safety. I see firsthand the positive impact our RIPTA system has on our community, and a reduction or elimination of services will be devastating to our neighbors. Here's the sad part. I have heard directly from our neighbors and all the ways we as a community depend on public transport. Families without a personal vehicle, people with disabilities, seniors that are no longer able to drive. One of these seniors has shared with me that he depends on weekend service and that he fears for his financial security as he relies on part-time income and will no longer be able to get to work with the impending budget cuts on weekends. As if that weren't devastating enough to hear, Fox Point is now a food desert with the closing of Eastside Marketplace. Many of our neighbors now must travel all the way to Seekonk, Massachusetts, outside of our own state, to afford groceries. I'm not talking about Whole Foods. how do you expect the working class to feed their families when they can't even get to the grocery store on weekends? The proposed budget cuts specifically to Route 92 will affect not only our community, but my small business. Weekends are our busiest days of the week, and many of our customers arrive by bus. This will greatly reduce foot traffic to our area and negatively impact not only our store, but other small businesses. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Hello, I use the bus for work and I go to doctor's appointments, so I work in East Providence. Basically, it's going to affect me too. And the doctor's office, I have to get to my doctor. With 54, I take 2. So it's going to, I'm going to be late for work because of 33. I need the 33. I'm sure a lot of people in here. So I hope that things change with the government.
After that last young lady who is in my area, I'm going to keep mine even shorter. I take the bus every day. I take the 92. I volunteer every day, whether it be with the homeless, the low income, or the seniors. My job, even volunteering, is a service that will not be provided if these buses get cut. Just yesterday, I took the second bus out and there were 5 people at one stop. So they can't say people don't ride the buses on the weekends. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pat Souza, the young lady from Poplar, spoke very well for me. I'm on the 92 route, and there are 2 senior housings there, Governor and Fox Point, Indiana, where I live. Saturdays and Sundays, you can't eliminate them. We go to church on Sunday, that's how I get there. On Saturdays, I like water fire. How am I going to get there, except if you're counting on the out-of-staters to come. There's more than just the out-of-staters. I like water fire, I'm sure a lot of people like this. My son is on the 58. He cries because he can't come to me on Sundays to have a good Sunday dinner. And this kills him. You need the 58 service. As far as markets, I'm depending now on Trader Joe's. It's okay, but it's not a good East Side marketplace, you know what I'm saying? But that's the 92, we really need it.
Hello, my name is Jack Jones, and I'm a resident of Warwick, Rhode Island, Oakland Beach area. I used to be a pastor in Oakland Beach. I also used to be a pastor in Providence at Mathewson Street Church. I take the 3 to volunteer now that I'm retired at Mathewson Street Church. And I come in on Sundays to Providence, and the bus, it surprised me because I come back to Rhode Island and the bus is full on Sunday. And I look around Sunday morning, and it's pretty obvious that the people coming in, using the bus Sunday morning, are going to church, and that they're low income, and that they have some kind of issue in their life a lot of times. And the way I feel about it is that people need community. They need community, or they shrivel up and get depressed. You know, there's an epidemic of suicide. There's an epidemic of overdoses, which is related to depression. And people need their community. And so entirely cutting the 3 on Sunday would just be devastating.
All right, hello, my name is Amber Blaylock. It's great to see everyone here today during a work day. I personally took time off work for this, and I'm coming back for the hearing later today too, because this is very important to me. I moved to Providence in the area where College Hill meets Mount Hope early this year. I am quite a new resident of Providence. My parents also moved to Providence earlier this year. They live near the Roger Wilderness Park area. We came from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I lived in the city, they lived in the suburbs. It's a lovely place with very bad public transit. I do not drive for neurological reasons. For much of my time living with my parents after college, I felt very stranded because I needed a car to get everywhere. When I moved into Harrisburg City itself, which was more walkable, It helped. I felt a lot more free. I could get my own groceries. But the transit did not run on weekends. The transit frequently ran only every 90 minutes. It would not go where I needed to, when I needed to go there. I would still have to summon my parents from 8 miles away to drive their car down, to drive me across the river to go to my favorite Indian restaurant. Here, things are a lot different, but also in some ways the same. I live about the same distance from my parents. I live about the same distance from my new favorite Indian restaurant. I continue to work from home, but I take the bus constantly now. I take it to go visit my parents now. My parents like to joke that we live 2 blocks away from each other because you walk a block, get on the bus, sit there for a while, walk another block, and you're there. I take the bus to restaurants. I take the bus to Strong Towns Providence meetings, which I am not here representing, but which I do attend. I take the bus to businesses. I take the bus to Waterfire. I took the bus to the beach earlier this summer for a very nice time, although unfortunately the meter was broken, so our group that was large enough to fill both beach buses, or 2 beach buses out of 3, I believe, almost no one was registered, so keep that in mind. I just want to say that one of the reasons we chose to move to Providence, it has a lot going for it. It is near family, but it's also the fact that it is walkable, that it has such good public transit. And I see these cuts and I worry that we're going to end up just like in Harrisburg, that we're going to see a death spiral for our transit system, because not only do I take the bus all the time now, but my parents, who have a car, take the bus regularly too, for the first time, because it's so convenient. They take it to visit me, they take it to restaurants, they take it to doctor's appointments. My mom, I'm hoping, will be here later tonight to speak at the second meeting against these cuts, and she's probably going to take the bus here. And this is what I think a lot of people don't realize, that there are so many different types of bus riders. There are bus riders who have cars and choose to take the bus. And if you cut service, you are going to see more cars on the road, you're going to see less parking, you're going to see more traffic. So even the people who drive benefit from good transit, not to mention that people are going to stop going to as many restaurants and getting out as much. So in conclusion, I'd just like to say that we talk about how transit services need to make a profit, but how much money do highways make?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jessica Null, and I'm here on behalf of Thunder Mist Health Center. I want to say that the proposed cuts would impact routes in all of the communities we serve throughout the state. I also want to acknowledge that I understand the impact of significant budget deficits, having just gone through a $17 million deficit ourselves last year. So I want to acknowledge that and empathize. Like many others said, we don't blame RIPTA. However, I must speak out against these cuts that will add additional transportation barriers to care. As it stands, we provide nearly $80,000 in unreimbursed medical transportation costs for our patients in order for them to access primary care and specialty appointments outside of Thunder Mist. However, we have, because of our deficits and our cuts, have had to reduce that service to outside referrals, meaning our patients now rely even more heavily on public transit. We exhaust all resources, including MTM, but those services must be requested in advance, and not all patients and appointments qualify for MTM. Communities Thunder Mist serves are areas with transportation shortages to begin with, particularly in South County. As it stands, it takes patients and staff members who rely on public transportation more than an hour along several different bus routes to reach their destination. The reduction will increase the time it takes to get to appointments and to get to work. One employee shared, "I currently spend 2 to 3 hours a day on the bus. This will not only add time to my daily commute, but by cutting weekend service, I will have no way to get to work on weekend shifts, which are required." Thank you.
I am George Prince from Providence, and I think by losing the 55 service, you're also losing the doctors and nurses up at Fatima Hospital, and there'll be no way of getting service to these people. I hope that maybe that you add service to the 57 line, and you're also losing the athletes and the students that go also to Providence College, and you do need the 58 line back in Providence, because a lot of people depend on that to go to work and to the mall, because a lot of people depend on that. And I think adding the time to the 51 is disgusting, because that's the only bus that goes up Charles Street. And we need that line, because we had 3 lines at one time and we only got 1. So I hope you take that into consideration and try to get the time back for me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jules Wong. I'm from Quincy, Massachusetts, a little far away, but the reason why I'm here is because I believe in RIPTA. It's my direct connection to Awful Awfuls and your existence in me. So, that's one thing. But I had a whole bunch of points here that I could talk about. Those are gone. Because really, we've seen all your stories, and they're very important. I want to redirect focus to, well, first, my summary position is that the RIPTA board should vote against these proposed cuts. So, and second point is that Governor McKee, Ride-Out Director Peter Alidi, leaders Shikarchi and Lawson, this is theirs to own. This crisis is theirs to own. We've seen this time and time again. This has been done by 1,000 cuts, whether we can see cuts on routes all throughout the years, and this has led to some of the issues that they have been talking about, including ridership declines. Now, if we had the money to bring back frequencies to acceptable levels, we would have those people who would be on the line, on the border of whether or not they would take their car or take the bus, choosing the bus. We'd be doing more things with the money we have. We're already very efficient. We saw that with the study that was released last week. And we need to be able to do more. We need to be able to invest more in our systems, including trains, by the way, which, you know, and rapid bus. I've been waiting for the rapid bus network development plans. That could totally transform your network. So, again, this crisis is theirs to own. We're talking about the guys, and I think if you're going to have to, you know, suffer through another year and a half of political campaigning, ask what Helena Folks has in store for transportation, because you know, this isn't just RIPTA. This is Washington Bridge. This is your roads and the roads that the buses go on. So it's a big job for you guys, but I'm hoping that we're all in this together. Even though I'm not a direct voter, but you know, I want to get another calamari down. So.
So my name is Barry Scheller from North Providence, and I'm thinking about how to avert these painful cuts. And I was actually on the board in the 1990s, and they have to have a balanced budget that's required. So the way to avert the cuts is in the governor's office. And because the governor has the power now, the legislature is not in session. And the governor himself, posturing as an anti-tax zealot, said, we didn't need to raise the gas tax because I had $15 million in unallocated funds. I could have given RIPTA without raising the gas tax. Okay, governor, if you have that money, we need it now. And we only need $10 million to avert the cuts. Now, the governor having that money is entirely plausible. You know, when the Washington Bridge closed, it wasn't in the budget or in the program that they would run that cockamamie ferry, which in the winter was never going to work, instead of promoting the buses that were running from the East Bay. They found the money to redesign the eastbound bridge to be two-way. That wasn't in the budget, but the governor and DOT found the money. So if they want to find the money, the governor has already said it's there. So the thing that we need to do is make sure the governor knows how painful what he's proposing is to the people who need the system. I don't believe even McKee, who doesn't much care about transit, is going to be so cruel if he could avert the cuts that he would not help. I still can't believe that he would give up on transit and start the downward spiral rather than see transit as a tool to help on the climate fight, the way Greg said, to help reduce congestion, as someone else said, to make an economic argument, to help stop the outflow of our dollars to for expensive oil to out-of-state oil interests. Think about where the money goes every time people fill up. It mostly goes out of state to those oil companies in foreign countries too. So I can't believe McKee is so enamored of the oil industry that he wants to give up on doing something about that. Thank you.
I took the one to get here today, and I also took time off of work to be here today, like a lot of us did. I find it incredibly concerning that we are limiting the accessibility for poor people, for people who cannot drive due to neurological conditions, physical conditions, or age, anything like that. I don't understand why those people deserve to have reduced accessibility to go to church, to go to work, to go to have their education, to go to the grocery store. That is incredibly concerning that Governor McKee and the rest of the politicians that have the ability to change this think that we don't deserve people who ride the bus to be able to go to church, go to stores, go to provide for our families, and go to work. That is incredibly concerning. Once you start that precedent that we deserve limited access to the things that help us make income, the things that bring humanity to us, whether it's recreation or small businesses, anything like that, once you start that precedent that we are less deserving than people that have cars, than people that have more money perhaps to be able to drive, that's a very concerning precedent that we're setting for this state and for this city and for Providence. We should not be allowing for that to happen, and I really hope that the government understands that. But it's interesting, when I first moved here, service was reduced, and I would go on the 51 and the 72, which were standing room only. There were so many times that buses passed, people on the side. There was people on the buses, multiple wheelchairs being used, bikes being used. Again, as I said, we should really be considering why we do not care about our disenfranchised people in this state and why we want to limit their access to live their lives. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Randall Rose. I'm from Providence. I'm a member of the Kennedy Plaza Resilience Coalition. And as a number of people have been saying, these cuts are not RIPTA's fault. RIPTA does not want to make these cuts. It's just that RIPTA relies on money from the state, and when RIPTA asked politicians for money this year, they got $10 million less than they asked for. And with $10 million less, there's no way they could keep the buses going. So RIPTA did not want to make any of these cuts, but they were just forced to by not having enough money. So I know a number of people have said, I'm just going to repeat, if you don't want these cuts to happen, it's important to contact the politicians who make the decisions. As long as our words are just stay within this room, just go to RIPTA, it's not going to make any difference at all. Because politicians are just going to not give RIPTA enough money if they don't take the blame for it. So I think we have to tell politicians this is important. I've been passing out this flyer people have, and it has the phone numbers for the governor, the House Speaker, the Senate President. They're the ones who make the decisions about money in this state. So it's good to call them and ask other people to call them too. It's good to call your state rep and state senator as well. I have a link on there for how to find your state rep and state senator. So if you call your state rep, it's good to tell them not just that we want buses, but tell them to talk to the Speaker of the House to get more funds for RIPTA, enough funds that we don't have to have service cuts or fare hikes. And if you call your state senator, tell them to contact the Senate President and ask the Senate President for money to make sure that RIPTA doesn't have the fare hikes and service cuts. Yeah.
What about the federal guys? What about White House and Reid? Do they have nothing to do with?
I would not suggest contacting White House and Reid on this issue. In fact, the Trump administration surprisingly has not been cutting bus spending at all. So knock on wood, they have not done that so far, but yeah. But it is important, this is the problem at the state level, it's not a problem at the federal level, it's not a problem for the city politicians. You do have to contact all the politicians who make decisions at the state level, and that's why this is on here. And we're also going to be having a rally in Kennedy Plaza at Wednesday at 5 p.m., so please come for that too. But it's more important to get people to call the governor and the other politicians, because they're the ones who can make the decisions. And if they don't do the right thing, then they're up for election next year. We should let them know there's going to be consequences.
Exactly.
So they have to listen to that. Yeah, and I would also say, it is good to be in joining bus rider groups, because that helps politicians listen to us. I mean, I'm in one of them. I'm in the Kennedy Plaza Resilience Coalition, but there are also people here from Rhode Island Transit Riders, another good group, say RIPTA, another good group. I would recommend joining those groups as well. Thanks for everybody for speaking, but remember that these words have to go to the people who make the decisions about money in the state. They have to know there's consequences if they don't fund RIPTA. And if they tell us, look, we'll give you a couple million more, maybe the cuts won't be quite so big, that's not enough either. We got to let them know that's not enough. And we may have to fight for this in the General Assembly next year as well. But the way the top politicians work is, the rank and file politicians, the rank and file state reps and state senators, they know that this is important. A lot of them have already been supporting us, but the top politicians, they try shortchanging things. They see if there's an outcry. If there's no outcry, you don't get more money. If there is an outcry, it gets fixed. And so please let them know there's consequences. And in the state Senate, there was a proposal to add 10 million more, but that got voted down in June. Senator Bazillion from Providence was one of the ones who voted against it. A bunch of others, Lawson and Chacon, Gallo, then Senator Dimitri and Takoyan and Padalano and the Mountain. Those are the ones from around here who voted against it. We got to let them know they should change their minds. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to start off by making a small correction. The final hearing in Barrington, that's not tomorrow, that's actually Wednesday. Anyway, I'd like to make 2 points. One is that I've been there, I think a lot of you have been there when after work or some kind of errand, you found out that the bus you were expecting in 20 minutes was going to take an hour, or worse, that you had made a mistake and you were outside the bus service altogether. That's never fun. And I'd also like to make the point that if these cuts are made, that doesn't mean that everybody is going to have a car. Everybody's going to have, $30 a night to take an Uber. These are gaps that are unaccounted for, and that leads to the domino effect. One thing affects another. People don't go one place, people don't go another place, and there's an overall effect in the economy too. So I'll sum up now just to say that again, it's important to know the phone numbers of the government lawmakers making the decision, so they can maybe give it some better thought. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Denise Dufresne. I've been taking RIPTA since 1979 when I started college. And I just have to say that I ride the bus because it makes sense. I have a car. I could drive every day. I could pay to park every day. But that's not what's important. What's important is our environment and trying to reduce our carbon footprint. I take the 59X, so I'm speaking to you park and ride people. I don't understand, and I know that, yeah, Governor McKee holds the keys. I've tried to call him, I don't get a call back. I did get a call back from Chikarchi. he is trying to get through to the governor. He is trying to convince him that we need to unleash the purse strings a little bit more for RIPTA. I spoke to him last Friday. I have written all the senators, state senators, and House members for my area. I hope you all do the same.
Yes.
But I also want to understand is, you know, instead of just eliminating routes, route reductions would always be the first step. And I'm not saying you should raise bus fares for the people who can't afford it, but park and ride people, I talk to them every night while I'm waiting for the bus. You could double our rates and we would still take the bus. So do the study, whatever you gotta do, but your study was a year late. I'm glad you got it out, and I'm glad I got it. But raise the rates for the park and rides. I'm not saying raise the rates for the others that rely on the bus, that can't afford to raise their rates. Raise the bus fares for us, because I would still take the bus. I don't want to drive on these roads. All of them are under construction. I have to come up Route 46, and I swear to God, I'm going to be vaulted through the air with that stupid sky bridge that they think is a good idea. So, you know, and I've already given my opinion to Joe Shekarchi and the governor, and I've given my fair opinion to RIPTA, because I do not blame you, but there are other ways to be more efficient. And instead of just laying off lower end people, I work for a big bank. We lay off from the top down too. So look at all other areas of employment at RIPTA where you can make some cuts to. That's all.
Hi, my name is Denise Boulay, and like the Denise that just left the room, I concur. I am a park and ride rider, and I do have to say, having listened to everyone before me, I commend you all for your stories and your statements and your support for RIPTA and the lack of cuts and eliminations, because it does affect the community, and bigger than that, it affects the state. So I'm not going to take more time reiterating all that, but thank you for your statements, thank you for all your stories. I take the bus back and forth to work from South Kingstown, Rhode Island, so my story is not that exciting. But like Denise, who comes from the other part of the state, I like riding the bus, and it makes me feel good to know that I'm contributing in some short way. Very personally and selfishly, it saves wear and tear on my car. My car is 12 years old. I don't want to have to pay for gas, and I don't want to have to pay for parking in town. It's easy when it's raining, it's easy when it's snowing, and it's nice when the sun shines. But to that point, we've all talked about how it is General Assembly, it is the governor who needs to loosen more money, but I do really implore RIPTA to take another look and not do eliminations completely. You know, can I take a car to work? Yes, but there are other people who don't, and childcare and everything else comes into play, and all of that I'm sure you've heard. But the fact that routes are being totally eliminated, I sort of think that's making, that RIPTA is making a statement as well, and I don't blame you. But it does affect the community, and I would ask that for various reasons, business owners, people who don't have cars, people who can't see their family on a Sunday for dinner, elimination of weekends where people kind of still do that old-fashioned celebration, I think need to have access to all that. We're the smallest state in the union, and I think that to reduce public transportation or eliminate it completely for certain corners of the state would be a big, big detriment. So thank you, and take it beyond this room, because that's where it needs to go.
I take the 27 to get to Stop and Shop to go to the pharmacy, and I might have to change my pharmacy and change the way I go to Stop and Shop. I'll have to use a different location, which it takes me out. I can't use up medical transportation just to get to the pharmacy to pick up my prescriptions. So, the only thing I could say when it comes down to it, we need a miracle because then I can say that the governor has money. He just wants to hide it like Ebenezer Scrooge. That's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Wingard. I live in Providence. I am not with Save RIPTA, but I got a shirt
last year when this same exact situation was happening. So look at where we are now. I just want to say, again, sadly we find ourselves here again where it seems like the state is choosing to ignore the needs of the people and reducing essential services in the name of fixing the budget. And I find it very surprising that we're having these conversations, but there's not these conversations to cuts to some of these wealthier people's salaries and pensions, but we're talking about cuts to a service that thousands of people need. Just like many of the other folks here, I rely heavily on RIPTA to get around. The 1, the 3, the 4, the R line, which honestly isn't even becoming a rapid line anymore if we're reducing frequency. The 66 to get to school, which I will now be risking having to be late or miss classes when I already have to get up earlier, 2 to 3 hours early, just to get to campus. So then this is going to hurt me even more, as well as other students. And taking $10 Ubers just around the city, and even more when traveling outside of Providence, adds up. That's something I can't afford if RIPTA services get cut. So this reduction, all of these reductions, like everyone else has said, these proposed cuts and such are not going to help Rhode Islanders. It's not going to serve those of us who rely daily on public transit. And need I remind you all of the Washington Bridge, which other people have mentioned, and the crumbling highway infrastructure in this state. At a time like this, we should be expanding RIPTA and promoting more public ridership rather than reducing reducing services. So that way more people can take the bus, reducing the number of cars on the road, reducing our carbon footprints, and lightening up traffic. And how is it that in the smallest state, we seem to have the worst accessibility to get around it? And the audacity to try increasing the fare while you're reducing the quality of our service. Not only that, but this move is going to surely cost people their jobs, their livelihoods, their education, and much more. Please, to Governor McKee, to Mr. Duran, Mr. Alviti, the General Assembly, and all the other state officials and leaders who are looking at these cuts, I am imploring you to reconsider this decision. There's got to be a better way to help RIPTA out of its budget deficit without taking away these essential services from all of the hardworking, tax-paying Rhode Islanders who utilize these buses every day, including the weekends, to the people looking at cutting the weekends. Thank you.
My name is Hector Perez Ponte. I'm the Racial Justice Policy Analyst at the Economic Progress Institute, and I'm here today because we at the Institute are deeply concerned about the turmoil and hardship that RIPTA has announced. These service cuts, which will cause passengers to rely on RIPTA for their transportation needs. It is important to note, and as someone had mentioned earlier today, that this deficit is not due to inefficiency. RIPTA has undergone several studies that have consistently demonstrated its operational efficiency in comparison to other transit agencies. In 2023, RIPTA gave a presentation to the Senate Committee on Rules, Government Ethics, and Oversight, which outlined that RIPTA outperforms similar agencies across the country in almost every key performance indicator. Furthermore, despite having a smaller service population, RIPTA provides more trips per capita across a larger service area and at a more efficient cost per trip. Funding RIPTA is especially important considering the cost of cars has significantly increased in recent years. According to the American Public Transportation Association, individuals who use public transit save more than $13,000 a year, or $1,100 a month compared to those who drive. Additionally, since 2019, the cost of purchasing a new car has increased by 30%, and the cost of purchasing a used car has increased by 40%. And as I wrap up, I would like to briefly end with my own experiences using the RIPTA system. I moved to Rhode Island nearly 6 years ago from a small city in Oklahoma, a state with almost non-existent public transportation. I know some of you are like, Oklahoma? I had no car and no support. Using public transportation was my only means of getting to work, home, the store, the doctors, and to the wider city of Providence, my new home. I was especially grateful for our transit system's timeliness, and never once did I have a bad experience on the bus. I smiled pridefully when I saw RIPTA drivers go out of their way to help individuals with disabilities, or spoke English as a second language, or even stopped for somebody who was rushing to catch the bus. I remember in one instance, the individual thanking the driver profusely, and that they couldn't afford being tardy for work that day. And the driver smiled warmly and responded with, "Not a problem." I knew then that public transit was not just a service, but a lifeline. And so we at the Institute we strongly urge the governor and the legislative leadership to fully fund RIPTA. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aisha. I'm a graduate student at Brown University. I'm just looking at my notes. Providence has been my home for the past 7 years. I don't have a car, so I rely on RIPTA most exclusively. And let me just say, I cannot afford a car, let alone paying for my rent. Whoever made this decision does not write RIPTA. I can totally say that. This is an efficiency study. I checked your presentations earlier. This is not an efficiency study. This is a cost efficiency study. You are just looking for cutting the budget, and this will not benefit anybody. A few years from now on, you will end up cutting more routes because nobody will be using RIPTA anymore. So when I ask my friends and like people around me, like, oh, why don't you just take the bus? People say, oh, it's inefficient. Oh, it's unreliable. So this is a lazy decision. If you want to make the public transportation efficient, I suggest you to do a whole new research, getting feedback from the community members, like getting income from low-income people, working-class people, Black, Indigenous, people of color, riders with disabilities, students, and so on. People use RIPTA to go to school, hospitals, churches, supermarkets, work, or just for leisure, and we've heard from people, but this is such a shame to kind of hear that the smallest state in the whole country cannot afford to have an efficient public transportation system when you can literally drive from one part of the state to another in 1 hour, and you are telling me you cannot have public transportation. This is a lazy decision. I'm sorry, but this is a lazy decision. Think about it. We are the ocean state. I haven't been to the beach this year at all. Let's also think about that and what you are doing when you cut the public transportation. So this is not only about going to work, school, etc., but also people's right to live and have leisure as well. Well, lastly, I'll just say that RIPTA, along with other public service institutions, are here to serve people, not to profit. And you definitely should not put people in a difficult position, and I'm so glad to hear there's such a great turnout today here. And I urge the state of Rhode Island to take its people's needs seriously, and enough is enough. I'll just say that much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hubbard, and I'm the Executive Secretary of the Governor's Commission on Disabilities. And this entire legislative season, I was there at the hearings testifying to support the funding for RIPTA. We submitted legislation on the bill that would restore the full $32 million, and the decision was still made. And I think the reason for this is because there is a lack of understanding on the part of the governor and the legislature on what public transit is. And a lot of people think of it as a luxury or some benevolent thing that's provided by the state, but it's not. It's a public good that it's a necessity for many people. And we've always been advocating on the side of paratransit, but it's not just paratransit for us. Not everybody who has a disability qualifies for paratransit services. And there are also a lot of people who use public transportation who provide the essential services for people with disabilities. So we're all interconnected. We're all part of the same economy, basically, that relies on RIPTA. And what RIPTA represents is RIPTA represents opportunity. It's opportunity for jobs, opportunity to work other hours and longer hours so you can make more money, support yourself better. It also represents access to shopping, access to leisure, access to services. A lot of people end up using the regular RIPTA for their medical appointments instead of the medical transportation because for them it's more reliable. RIPTA also represents independence. A lot of people have said that, I want to be independent. I don't want to have to ask other people for rides. And, in disability community, we're pretty big on independence. So please think about that and think about how allowing people to have this independence is so important to their lives. It's self-sufficiency, it's dignity, it's what a lot of other people take for granted. In the past hearings, I've been attending a few, and people from my office have attended hearings, and we have heard from people who are worried about losing their jobs because the route is being cut, or worse, that they won't be able to go to weekend shifts, and weekend shifts are required, so they'll lose their job because of that, even if it's just a weekend that's being cut. We've heard from people who moved from one town or one neighborhood to another because they needed to be able to be on the transit route, and now that's transit route that they moved to is being cut. We've also heard from people who said that this is their lifeline to loved ones and family, and that without the bus route that they use to visit their family, they wouldn't be able to visit them, they wouldn't be able to see them, and that would be cut from their life, which is such an important thing, and we don't think about the fact that it's not just about jobs, it's not just about shopping, it's also about social connection. So all those things are very important. If we were to remove, removing this funding, which they've done, the consequence is not just for these people, the consequence is also for the economy. The employers who have all these positions filled won't be able to fill the positions because people won't be able to get to their stores. And it's not going to be the Amazons and the big businesses who are able to provide funding for their, have their own special routes. It's going to be the smaller businesses, the state businesses who are going to suffer. We also, need to make sure that people have access to, as I said, that shopping at different places, because if people can't shop at those businesses aren't going to be patronized, and people are going to resort to online shopping and things like that. So we want to promote local business, and more routes that go to small, neighborhoods or access, different lines and senior centers and low-income housing to more shopping opportunities. More people are able to actually go and choose to spend their money, in smaller businesses and different businesses. And somebody had mentioned before that making the cuts is just going to decrease ridership, and it's an administrative death. And what you do, and we've seen this as a tactic on the federal level, is you defund an agency that you don't like, basically, and you say, you make them less efficient, and you make them turn people against them. So now if you defund RIPTA and people cut services, you're going to have more people saying, well, I can't ride RIPTA, or it doesn't go that often, so I'm not going to choose to ride RIPTA. So the ridership goes down. And then you come around in 2-3 years and you say, oh, see, ridership's down, let's cut them even more. No, we have to stop that downward spiral. We have to make it go back up, because as RIPTA has been on the upswing, ridership has increased. There was a dip because of COVID, but ridership is actually above, it's getting back up there. It's increasing, and it's because RIPTA is doing well. And on that note, many of you have seen the efficiency study that was released on Friday. Thank you for ruining my weekend by releasing that on a Friday afternoon. But if you pour through it, like I did this weekend, you will see RIPTA's really is such an efficient, compared to similarly situated transit systems, RIPTA is doing a very good job. And one area that I was really impressed with was administrative costs compared to other similar transit systems, and that our administrative costs are low, which means we don't have the middle management. The money is being spent on the rides, it's on the drivers, it's on providing services. So we should be very proud of RIPTA and the good job that they've done in being an efficient and agency and doing what they're supposed to do and giving the taxpayers what they're paying for. The governor has the money. It's been proposed by many legislators that there's this extra money there for funds and other funds that we could use to bridge this gap. And I'm certain there are a lot of state agencies who are looking for a chance at this money. I know I certainly would. have great ideas for it, but we gotta put the money where it's gonna do the most good. RIPTA has shown with this efficiency study that this is a good investment. We also know that it's going to help the economy. If we continue to fund public transit, it's gonna hurt it otherwise. So I would suggest to all of you, I'm gonna be writing to the Senate President and the Governor, the Speaker, and as many legislators as I can think of to say, please, please release the funding, close this gap, because it's going to have devastating effects. So, thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Tyrell. I'm from Providence. And as most of you all, as most of everybody in here, I've been riding for RIPTA for most of my life. Since I was like this high, I used to go to the Providence Place Mall with my grandma every weekend, just have a ball. Now currently I use lines 27 and 92 to get to and from work. And you know, now they're less frequent, and that's really gonna impact me getting to and from work. But I'm not really thinking about myself now, I'm thinking about those whose lines have been completely cut. Like, how are they supposed to get to and from work and school? How many family events or birthdays are they gonna miss because they can't get to where they need to go because RIPTA is their main source of transportation? How are they gonna get the medical treatment that they need, or how they're gonna get the medical treatment that they need from these hospitals if they can't get to where they need it? And from what other people are saying, like getting that medical transportation is just not always reliable. And for people who haven't got their lines cut, and now the lines are less frequent, what am I supposed to tell my employer of why I'm late every week? Am I supposed to just be like, well, it was the bus? They're not gonna take that, they're gonna fire me. I'm gonna have no job. Am I supposed to spend $20 every day to get to and from work just so I can supply for myself? Half of that money is just going towards work. I'm probably gonna come back with like a $5 paycheck. That's not gonna pay for anything. I'm also thinking about when schools start back up. People who take the bus know that weekday when school's out, taking the bus is already a pain. You're telling me now, on top of that, there's gonna be less routes, the line's completely cut, and kids all crammed into one bus? That's gonna be paid for everybody. Nobody wants that. And if these changes to RIPTA are really taken and really go into effect, it's not going to just affect the people who ride the RIPTA bus. It's going to affect everybody. The whole city's going to feel it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick. I spent my formative years in southern New England, mostly in Rhode Island. I'm a graduate of Cumberland High School. Shout out to former Mayor Emeritus, now Governor McKee. I moved to Smithfield after graduating URI in 2013 for the past 11 or so years. Shout out to Senator Tikoyan. First, I must commend RIPTA's handling of this awful hand they've been dealt. The worst in their over 50-year history and the worst in our state's history since the streetcars ripped out and replaced with perpetual congestion and hit and runs. This represents a concerted effort to keep some semblance of our current system, a ghost of our former streetcar network. So that speaks to RIPTA's efficiency just in its history. Nearly 130 years, we're still using the same routes that have been proven effective. I acknowledge the triage of these cuts is largely a numbers game, and I do agree that we need to prioritize the urban transit core over the suburbs where I'm from. It's a matter of social equity, and I don't have the lived experience to speak on the needs of the residents here in Providence. But I would like to highlight the unfortunate reality of Providence bearing the brunt of not only their own burdens, but the burdens from the suburbs. And this applies to transit especially. RIPTA's character and resiliency is being systematically stripped away, much like a large part of the city, from outside interests. The park and ride routes, which I'm happy to see some people showing up for that and speaking their minds, because we just assume that, oh, if you can drive the park and ride, why would you just drive all the way there? So I appreciate them speaking out against those routes. Having the bus services that service Centerdale, where it's my secondary hub, because my primary route is a 58, which stops 10 minutes from my house, which I like a lot, and a lot of jobs and people work at the hospital, people work at the shopping centers, rely on them, and seniors as well. But all these routes that we're cutting, and people have spoken on this, is shifting the mode to cars or to pedestrians and cyclists, people who can't afford or choose not to drive a car. And this increase in shares both is an Ouroboros, where the more traffic you have on the streets, the more dangerous it is for cyclists and pedestrians. We're seeing more cars, more pedestrians, more cyclists, and those people aren't going to get along, especially not we're lacking the infrastructure needed to support pedestrians and cyclists. So the increased car mode also has a nasty side effect of further hampering RIPTA's ability to have consistent, reliable service, because they have to deal with the traffic. This is a catch-22, and as most people said, the decreased ridership from the increased headway, the increased fares, and the complete elimination, after all, is not going to be worth that effort to get on the bus, which is already a large part for a lot of people. And internally, it's not going to be the lack of job security that these drivers are facing, who are just hired and now being furloughed, and the increased stress of I'm hoping these cuts are aiming for more crowded buses, which again is going to increase the stress of the drivers and also the increased traffic they'll have to deal with. So it's not going to be worth that when they have their CDL and they can go work for many other companies who would relish the chance to have them. I work in shipping, so I can see that firsthand. So let's talk about the value proposition of saving this additional $10 million over this impact, which I've discussed, over the increased car traffic, bottlenecking in Providence for people who are either trying to ram through the city to get to where they need to go, because the highway was put through our city, or the people heading into the city to work. Neighborhoods like Oneyville, Federal Hill, and Silver Lake, which my route runs through, so that's my experience, are some of our most densely populated and car-choked, as well as economically disadvantaged. And they will continue to see decreased health outcomes and increased road wear, damage to property and life as a result of this increased traffic from the suburbs, from drivers unfamiliar or unconcerned with the area. These costs cannot be offset with car sales or fines. And since we still don't have our car tax, which we foolishly got rid of I don't know how many years ago, one less mitigation route for that. But nothing can replace the loss or quality of actual life, no amount of fiscal money. The route eliminations increase headways, sorry, I went out of order here. To increase the automobiles, yes. And one final point before I try it on a positive note. This $10 million, this litany of cuts and everything, is the real value proposition. Not only think of it as what loss of $10 million lose you, but what the funding of $10 million will get you. And I hope that the state's attitude towards the financing of RIPTA shifts, in which they like, what can $10 million get us? An additional $10 million can get us, even more decreased headways, from 30 to 45 minutes down to 15, 20 minutes, like we see on the R line. And foolishly, they cut the fare-free study, and of course, ridership decrease. We're going to see the same things with all these cuts. So, on a positive note, RIPTA has only proved what transit employees and users already know of extraordinary efficiency. The bang for your buck, the $10 million, and the value that gets with that that we're losing and we're fighting against, and the strong, skilled jobs that directly benefit the community. An ability to lock on fuel prices, which you can't get with Uber, and cost per trip, and also the democratic involvement of they're reaching out and reaching out to their customers and their users. You can't get that with other forms of transit, with your car dealer, with your Uber. It's pretty much, sorry, this is what's going up, and you have to deal with it. I hope for a state I call upon my former mayor and current governor Daniel McKee, upon Representative Gregory Constantino, who actually did get back to me on the initial cuts, but has not since, and a former state police major and my state senator David Tikoyan, and the state police do have a history of working with RIPTA. One of their former CEOs was a man by the name of Ray Studley, who I actually worked for when he was at a membership of the country course, so I'm surprised that Tikoyan seemingly hasn't shown much in response, at least not to me, about funding RIPTA, and as another venue for the state police to find work post-careers in the state police. It seems that's undermining that option as well, so I hope he takes that into consideration. So anyway, a little bit discombobulated, but thanks very much for listening. And
good afternoon. My name is Grace Pyers. I'm the president of the National Federation of the Blind of Rhode Island. I would like to say that although I am extremely pleased, we are extremely pleased that the paratransit services will continue. I am here because I'm also concerned about the cuts to the fixed route services. There are many blind and low vision people who do use fixed routes, and for those routes are being eliminated, they'll have to, I don't know, not live anymore. They will have to use paratransit services, which in the long run will be more expensive for RIPTA. So transportation for us who are blind is essential. We don't have another choice. And for some people, having to spend more money to use paratransit is difficult for them. They cannot afford it, or it's more convenient for them. So I'm here to say if there is money available somewhere, please, please, let's bridge this gap and not have this happen to Rhode Island. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mona Hussein. I'm a resident of Providence. I have had the pleasure of living in a bunch of different states and cities across this country. And what I will say unequivocally is that when public transportation takes people where they want to go, when they want to go, people use it. We need more transit in Rhode Island, not less.
Hey everyone, my name is Liza Birkin. I'm the board president of the Providence Streets Coalition and organizer with the Save RIPTA campaign. It is honestly so, I don't even have the words right now. It's unspeakable that we are here together in this room again, after being together here in this room last February.
Yes.
I love all you transit riders so much. We are the connected people. We are the ones out in our communities talking to people every day, not isolated in our cars. I don't want to be in this room with you all right now. And I want to see those in power in this room actually listening to our stories. Thank you, RIPTA, for finally broadcasting on YouTube so that maybe they will listen. I'm so fed up. I'm so tired. I'm so fed up with this. And it is past time that Governor McKee understand how detrimental these cuts are going to be to our people, to our planet, to our local economy.
Yes.
It's unreal. So please, like others have said, call the governor's office, keep calling. Threaten him with, say, I and none of the people that I know are voting for you again.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's threatening your jobs. He's threatening your educational opportunities. Threaten your vote. That is the power that we have as the people.
Threaten that seat. And threaten those paychecks.
Yeah. There are two more ways that you can help this week. We are really getting down to the wire here, my friends. The last hearings in Barrington are happening on Wednesday. Simultaneously, we will be having a rally in Kennedy Plaza at 5 o'clock. Please come. Please share your voices. Power to the people. This is what we've got to do. And then Thursday morning, the board of RIPTA is meeting to vote on the cuts less than 12 hours after the final hearing. They keep saying, oh, we have to review the final, the efficiency study. We have to review the public hearings. No. The board meeting is the next morning to vote on the cuts. What review are they talking about? This decision has been made, and unless we have enough power, people power, that's the only way we're going to stop it. Yeah. So please come to the board meeting Thursday morning. Tell the board, do not vote on these cuts. Come to Kennedy Plaza. Call the governor. Call all the people. Yeah. You have the power. We have the power. We're going to make this go away again.
Hello everyone, I'm Walter Malolo. I'm the president of Business Agent of Local 618A in Providence. I represent all the hard men and women that work for RIPTA, and to get you where you need to go every day. And I applaud them. They do a fantastic job, and there's nothing else to say about them, but they do great work. I'm here today, obviously, to advocate to keep what we have, to keep the service going. I know firsthand what this service means to you. I've been here 28 years, I've been a bus driver, I've been a supervisor, and I've heard the stories. I've seen the hardship. I see what it does for people. And to eliminate something so essential for the community it touches home. I said it before, it's emotional and it hits hard. This is my life. I've been here half of my life, and I see what this service provides to the community. So what I'm going to say is obviously to call your legislators, call your senators, call the governor, call the mayor. It's your voice, it's your power. You need to get out there. You need to write email. We get an important tool in our hand, the cell phone, and it gives us so much, right? So please do your part. Thank you.
My name is Howard Kaufman. You might be able to tell I don't have upper teeth right now. I have a dentist appointment like in a month, and I can't get there because of the cuts, because the Johnson bus does not go as far as it used to on the list. It stops short of Atwood Avenue in Johnston, so I can't go there, so I can't get dentists.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Glenford. I'm just amazed. We call Rhode Island the Ocean State. And we celebrate our beautiful oceans. And we don't, we won't be in a position to allow everyone in the state to access our beautiful oceans.
Exactly.
It just makes no sense to me. The other thing that comes to my mind is that this is the smallest state in the entire nation. And to be in a position where we can't get our citizens from one end of this tiny state to another is pitiful. Now, I've been here for almost 30 years, so I consider myself a Rhode Islander, but I'm originally from New York City. And you know, it always amazed me that people complain, oh, it's so far away. They lived in Providence or North Kingstown, it's so far away. And I spent about 20 years in South County, and now I'm in Providence. And I am, for the first time, not in a position to drive, medical reasons. And I thought, well, this is wonderful. I'm in Providence. I'm in the central hub. I could access all the buses. I can go visit people close to me in South County. I can access the beaches. I can access anywhere. And to now feel like I'm stuck in the city again, in this tiny state, makes no sense. No, it doesn't. Makes no sense. We should allow our citizens to enjoy all of Rhode Island. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Martinez. I'm a resident here of Providence. I live in Elmwood. I am a mobile notary and a student. I don't drive. I have a license, but I don't have a car. I rely on the transit system to get to my clients, to get to school, to get pretty much anywhere. And I cannot sit at an unsheltered bus stop in the sun for 50 minutes. And honestly, my question is, has Governor McKee ever had to do that? Has he had to stand at an unsheltered bus stop in the cold for 50 minutes?
In the rain.
In the rain? And honestly, I'd like to see him try.
We all do.
Yeah, but you know, these cuts, these reductions, they affect everyone. And like, you know, everyone said, it affects the economy, it affects commuters, it affects students, the elderly, the disabled, and honestly, it's just a stupid decision.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Blanchett, and just wanted to say that I live in North Providence, and I take the local buses there. It's like 50, 55, and 58 to get around town, and to many other people, particularly to go shopping at the local supermarket. And I also take other routes, just like the 21 for medical appointments, and that one is always busy, always packed with all the big destinations it goes to, and also the 66 and 69 to get to the beach. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people who have other stories like that, other routes. Just want to mention the ones I know about. Thanks.